I have no idea how this is gonna go. So we'll just let it just.
I don't like this already. I don't.
This song was much slower than I was anticipating.
Is this that song from? Oh.
Okay. All right. I Google searched Castle in the Sky wiki, and this song came up. So this is. I'm gonna tell my kids this is the theme from Hayao Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky.
Oh, you'll be doing your children a disservice. I thought this was that one random pop song they played at the end of like Acolyte season episode 6 or 7. That kind of, no offense, awful pop song.
You know what? I would say if Castle in the Sky ended with this, I would have been banging into it. This is actually I've enjoyed this.
Huh?
This is fun.
Doing what?
It's a banger. Bopping. Mm-hmm. It's very repetitive, but it says castles in sky a lot.
You would have eyebrow raise.
Getting high in the castle in the sky.
Not me. Not in this household. We're a clean household.
That would explain this podcast if that's what we were doing.
Star Wars, Transformers, Godzilla, animation, whatever else. Rebels, robots, and etc.
It's Tuesday night, and Cameron and Rachel are hanging out yet again, which must mean that it is Starformers night. Welcome to Rebels and Robots and Banging Sounds Upstairs, and etc. Episode
we should stop saying things.
62. I'm Cameron.
I'm unfortunately present. I'm Rachel.
Awake, but at what cost?
Yeah, for real. Awake at what? Yeah, awake, but at what cost?
This is our bi-weekly chat about Star Wars and
Transformers.
And whatever else we want to talk about. I decided to take out Godzilla because I don't know when we will actually have a good reason to talk about Godzilla again.
There's always a good reason to talk about Godzilla.
Like, we added Godzilla in the height of probably, at least in America, one of the most popular times for Godzilla ever. Because there was 2 films in theaters within a 6-month span. That's craziness. And obviously now
good camera.
There's not as many reasons to talk about him. But we do talk a lot about animation, which is why we are at the end of our 3-part Miyazaki, both Goro and Hayao, Studio Ghibli series. I had the idea of calling it Hayao It's Summer, like Heyo It's Summer, like Hayao, but they're not all 3 Hayao Miyazaki.
So I thought we agreed on Hot Miyazaki Summer.
We did not agree on that. I
think we
distinctly
did.
remember not the thing. It's not the worst one.
Hey, do you know what I realized, Cameron?
What's that?
So today's the 27th. Spoilers onto what day we're recording this. Transformers 1 doesn't come out till the 20th. So, do we have another recording?
Yeah, we already decided to do Bumblebee.
I forgot we didn't watch Bumblebee.
Yeah, that's the next episode after this.
I forgot we were going to watch Bumblebee.
That's a good transition into a little preview for what's coming up. But for today, our final film, a film that until last week, neither of us had ever seen. I don't know how much you knew. I knew nothing. Did you figure out you had seen it?
No,
you were back and forth on what as we started. You were back and forth.
I had not seen this one.
Okay,
it had a similar intro that I was like,
I see.
Or I've probably seen like the opening on TikTok before I scrolled away.
Hayao Miyazaki's 1986 animated film Castle in the Skycastle, and is that what it's called? Is it not called Castle in the Skycastle? Are you saying that there is not a sky castle, and that there kind of is a castle within the castle? There's kind of a like inner part to the exterior part, which is why Castle in the Sky Castle.
Most buildings have an inner part to the exterior part. I hate to break it to you like this, but I just gotta let you know.
Gazebos don't. Or
there's an inner. And maybe it's like a belly button. There's innies and outies.
No. Okay. Wow. Athena's gonna have her work cut out for her this week, getting stuff cut out.
She's actually in the litter box.
But she's cutting out something else. Anyways,
wow, I hate that a lot.
Before we talk Castle and the Skycastle. We've got recent thought and news. Rachel, I know there's one big piece of news.
Should we start off with it first?
Sure, why not?
Get it out of the way.
Here's the thing.
Woke?
Is it
woke?
Is it news? Is the question. Is it real?
Yeah?
Well, it's not been... Okay, so go ahead and say the bit of news.
I hope you're thinking about the same thing. The Acolyte has not been renewed for a season 2.
Which has only been actually sourced to one article by
I'm
Deadline.
fairly certain...
Disney. I have not seen any confirmation from Disney. I have not seen anything outside... I've not seen anything sourcing anything except that one Deadline article that said sources say. Disney has not come out and said it, which does not mean it's not true. But as of right now, we do not know for sure. Then the closest thing I've seen to a formal acknowledgement is someone quoting the actor who played Soul, saying he was disappointed about it.
Well, so Forbes announced... Well, okay, I'll tell you what Forbes says after they take out the 7 ads on my screen. The internal information is coming from insider Jeff Snyder, who's not Schneider. Snyder, who is looks like an independent writer. But allegedly, this information is from this guy. I've never heard of him. He talks about a lot of different things. But the things that...
Yeah, he's not even a journalist. His Wikipedia, his Twitter says, subscribe to Hollywood's leading independent newsletter.
But I think some of the things that has been coming out is that this show had an $80 million budget.
180 million?
$180 million budget. And
for
so the Acolyte,
8 episodes, 9 episodes?
Yes. So kind of around that zone. And I was gonna burp. I didn't want to just go right into them.
We can cut those out. Or just leave them in, whichever.
I think from what I've been seeing is that it's most likely cost versus viewership.
Mm-hmm. No, I would not be surprised if this show is canceled. But what I'm saying is...
Someone did the math that every minute of screen time would have cost $630,000 if they...
Dang.
For an $180 million budget. I will say...
Even this is the Forbes article I'm looking at. The second sentence says Deadline is reporting. So, everyone keeps sourcing back. What I'm saying is these things have happened in the past where things have been widely reported that were just simply not true or were, partially true. I'm not saying that Deadline sources are wrong, but also, okay, here's what I think is most likely at this point. Either Disney was on the verge of canceling it and it got leaked and they decided to wait and look at the response.
Maybe.
Or they intentionally leaked this story. Because what has happened
it's called marketing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Acolyte has dramatically spiked in viewership for a show that had already dropped really low. This, either intentionally or on accident, has potentially saved, at least has given the Acolyte, quote unquote, second life. It's shown that there is a lot of interest in the show. There's a lot of fan support. From what I can tell, I keep seeing the same screenshot. I've not looked into myself. There's a screenshot of this one online petition to bring back Acolyte, and it's very popular. And there's a bunch of very small, the biggest petition to keep it canceled was 1,000 people.
I did see that.
So it shows that there's a very passionate fan base to keep it, and that a lot of the people who were really, really against it were minority and are kind of bad faith actors.
There has been some responses. Forbes posted another article with some responses from the cast. From Lee Jung-jae, who not killed, who played Soul, speaking to Entertainment Weekly. He said, personally speaking, I really love Leslie's writing. I thought she was a great writer and director who was very talented in the storytelling, as well as creating characters and creating meaningful structures in the story. Excuse me. So I was actually personally really looking forward to watching a season 2 with her at the helm. Honestly, I'm hoping there could be changes in the future because you never know what's going to happen. So on a personal level, I really hope we get to see further stories of Leslie's second season.
Now, the Hollywood Reporter is the first one I've seen, and this article was from August 19th. It says the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. So they did their own, according to them, they did their own reporting. But again, Disney has still not made any sort of official. Now, that could be a huge, like, kind of secondary story to this was that immediately after this news came out, all of the Acolyte merch was disappeared off of the online store.
I've seen that as well, but so has the Andor.
And then it's already back.
Oh, okay.
So like, what I'm saying is that for you could even just say Disney does not want to announce this yet because they're still trying to sell Acolyte merch. Like they're not gonna. I would imagine you announce the show is canceled. You're gonna have a tougher time selling. Like it would be ridiculous to be like, we should cancel the show, but please still buy this merch. Like that would be ridiculous. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had never desired to actually announce it.
And well, here's the other thing. It was never greenlit for a season 2.
Correct.
So I think there's also, I was thinking about that. I'm like, can you technically consider it canceled if a season 2 was never even guaranteed? And I think, I just keep coming back to the fact that I feel like this is perhaps not the best narrative executed.
Oh, absolutely.
And
no, the show is very flawed, but this is about, I don't know, to me at this point, the story has become about perception more than reality, which is, you can say what you want about that, but it's about like what we really want to know is, if it is canceled, why was it canceled? Was it just numbers? Was it just pure normal mathematics and the online response had nothing to do with it?
And was it just we just didn't want to continue with this story?
Yeah, also possible. Yeah, I think we did talk about this show was greenlit quite a while ago, I feel like. And before, I think, I could be totally wrong about this, before Filoni came on as chief creative officer.
Was this green light before that?
I think it was. I feel like I remember hearing about this show like pre-pandemic.
This was like pre-COVID because when it originally came out, we thought it was going to be about Maul.
Oh, I don't remember ever hearing that.
I think I remember hearing speculations that it was going to be about Maul because we knew it was about a Sith before the Phantom Menace.
Oh, sure.
And the logo was red.
I'm going to see if the Wikipedia at all talks about
who else is red? Darth Maul.
Development. At the premiere of the film Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, television writer Leslie Heslin was asked about her interest in the Star Wars franchise and revealed that she was a big fan with many ideas. And she wanted to make Star Wars films that she wanted, blah, blah, blah. Headland kind of this film pitch. In April 2020, Headland was publicly revealed to be revealing short. So right at the beginning, I was close. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic, April 2020, this show was announced. So it was over 4 years ago when the show was announced, which meant it was in development for some time before an official announcement.
That's a long time for a show to be in development.
So I can see where potentially they're... but on the other hand, the High Republic is kind of their new thing that they're really invested in. And this is like obviously like in a live action version scene would seemingly be like the biggest investment. But yeah, this really speaks to us just having no idea what Lucasfilm really is wanting to accomplish at this point. Like it was early days. It was so clear, a new trilogy, spin-offs set between 3 and 4.
Yep.
And then I think when Solo didn't do well, it really caught him off guard. And since then, and then the pandemic, just a year and a half after that, or like a little under 2 years after that, and Rise of Skywalker being a crap show of a production and kind of at best middling reception. I think ever since then they've been scrambling, and I think all of us may have. I think I would say I was guilty in thinking that Andor showed that things were back on track, but Andor has proven to be kind of singular in its success, and everything else has been mixed bag.
I think it might be the writing.
Yeah, I think it. There's a lot of things you could say.
Yeah,
we've talked a lot about this.
If you didn't know, we kind of like Andor.
Yes.
And I've seen some comparisons because people were like, it's hard to get a read on a show when you don't give it a chance to flesh out, which I see part of that, but I also go back to, okay, but I think you really need to do the absolute best with what you've got because a second season isn't guaranteed. Because people talked about that with, they said, Clone Wars for the first season was great. And it's like, well, true, but that was also solely under Lucasfilm. Unfortunately, Star Wars is now under a much bigger umbrella. And I do like a lot of the things Disney has introduced. I think it's done some absolutely stellar things. But I think unfortunately it missed the mark.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Show business is ruthless.
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's very money based.
But I guess what's frustrating is why would you make a show that ends a first season that ends like this without a desire to keep it going?
True.
Like, we already talked about it. Dune, great example. I don't know enough about television, but I do feel like there are expensive TV shows that have gotten a chance to have a couple of seasons. I think you also think about something like this. Kind of feels to me like the Clone Wars. They invested, I would think, a good amount of money in putting the movie in theaters to promote the show. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you invest a lot of money in an initial thing that won't necessarily be that successful to drive interest in. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what they kind of did. They have the books. It kind of draws interest back towards and it's kind of how things like Transformers and Ninja Turtle movies, they don't really care how well the movies do because they drive toy sales. Mm-hmm. Like the movies will always sell really good toys for those two particular brands. Mm-hmm. So I think similarly, I don't think you should look at just viewership on this because look at the larger, are High Republic books doing well? Is merch doing well? And they
are.
I guess the biggest question is they almost certainly have an algorithm that heavily plays into showing numbers. How much does that have at all? And I don't know how any of this works, but does it somehow have involved in it negative coded tweets? Like, does it at all care? Or does it, because if it was just any sort of engagement is good engagement, this show had a ton of engagement, mostly I felt like negative, just because of sheer quantity of like one person who loved it might like tweet like 1, 2, or 3 times. Someone who hated it would tweet like 10, 20, 30 times. Mm-hmm. So they're and that obviously offsets of like you could have the same number of tweets, but like significantly fewer people. Regardless, I hope that this is not a done decision. I would even be super happy if they just brought it back in a lower budget, like half the budget.
I think we might have talked about this. I think The Acolyte could have really flown on its own if it had been... Honestly, I think Plagueis and The Stranger would have been such an interesting...
Yeah.
If it focused on them. I think it ran in... I think we might have talked about this. I think it ran into... When you get a cast that gets too big, I think things slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. That's true. How about this? You bring it back, but you retitle it after the most important character, Basil. It's just a Basil show.
I hate that. I actually did see someone suggest that if they bring it back under a different name, they just call it The Stranger. Like, you have The Acolyte and then season 2, The Stranger. I don't know.
Plagueis and Friends.
Plagueis and Friends.
Plagueis and his weird roommate.
Plagueis and weird.
And the girl who won't leave.
Oh, so, I'm sure there's some people out there with relatable. When your roommate brings home a girl and she just lives there now. She doesn't even pay rent. She just eats the food out of your fridge and just takes up all your Wi-Fi, your bandwidth.
Anything else to say about that? I think that's all I got to say about
That's all I
that.
got to say.
So I don't have any news.
I do.
But I do have some thoughts. So in the last week, so Alice and I are rewatching Star Wars. I think I may have talked about that recently. And in the last week, we watched Attack of the Clones and started Kenobi. I've thought about Attack of the Clones, which is, I've always had the joke that Anakin and Padme show up on Tatooine and just steal C-3PO, like seemingly the only worker on the Lars family moisture farm at that point. And then I realized, hold on, everyone in the universe hates 3PO.
They were
so they were happy to get rid of him. That's my new take on that situation. They were so happy to be rid of him.
Uncle Owen was probably like, take him for free. Don't even give us
You're
money
doing
for
us
him.
a favor.
So do you think when they came back in A New Hope, Uncle Owen was just like, no.
Sure, I never thought about that.
Or is it just R2 that he buys from?
No, he wants 3PO and does not want R2. And they only get R2 at 3PO suggestion. That I didn't think about that.
If you read from another point of view,
little
robot.
I've read the original comic.
Blew its top. So because it knew R2 was important.
Yes, I've
self-sacrificed.
That was a comic many years back, like a one-shot little comic.
You were a one-shot little comic.
So I thought that was funny. I guess they just, the Lars family definitely reads as people who are racist towards droids. They all sound the same.
Oh my gosh.
And he
That's
shows
everyone in Star Wars.
It's been like 20 years.
Everyone hates droids.
And 3PO is gold now, and
shiny.
A lot of more than any other kind of droid, the protocol droids are all very similar looking. So, what other news you got?
Did you want to talk about thoughts that we didn't get to talk about with Princess Mononoke?
Did you have something? I didn't have anything.
Yeah, we didn't bring up how the deer god only chose to heal part of Ashitaka instead of the actual curse.
Yeah.
Only chose to heal his wound instead of the curse.
It's it's very
which we thought
meaningful.
had some interesting spiritual connotations.
Sure.
I think it made me think of like how Paul talks about the thorn in his side.
Yeah.
Things we're delivered from, and then things we aren't. Things that we might think we should be delivered from, but that we're not actually, just based on God's will.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, it ended up working out for Ashitaka.
Yeah.
It ended up working out for him.
Yeah.
But...
And more, I don't know. I can't remember what they really refer to it as, but referring to it as the curse, that's very explicit biblical language of sin on the world, and we will never be cured from that on this earth.
Or, what's a further spiritual connection that he was only cured from it after the dear God sacrificed himself to heal the land?
That one's... I don't know if he sacrificed himself, but you could read it that way. Yeah, but I don't know if he sacrificed. He was killed. I guess that's... He's kind of a blank slate, the dear God.
I'm not saying the dear God is Jesus.
I know, but you could still see it very relative to Jesus of he was murdered by human hands. And his death, he's no longer there, and there is certainly a loss there. But there is a healing, though, that occurs as a result of his death. So, yeah, good read. Good catch.
Thank you.
So, you want to talk about airships and air pirates?
Oh, my gosh.
And...
built ladies.
and thick grandmas? Because that's what you get. That is Castle in the Skycastle.
And subtle Iron Giant knockoffs.
Well, this came before. Yeah. Castle in the Skycastle, Iron Giant Origins. So I have... This movie is pretty simple plot-wise. So I but it also has a lot going on and not a lot going on. It's not quite Prince Mononoke levels of you kind of have to just watch the movie to understand it, but also it's not just like Poppy Hill where it's just kind of a straightforward real-life story. So I have a quick plot synopsis that I have written down that I'm just going to read, and then that will allow us to talk about whatever we want. So, Sheeta is a young woman who's been kidnapped by the government, who's never quite defined. We don't know where we are.
Government.
We don't know when we are. It's kind of an
government
alternate,
capitalized TM.
It's an alternate timeline where it's kind of like the late 1800s, but also airships are around and the Earth looks different. And there's an alternate history and an alternate present, and the story unfolds like pretty much by halfway through the point you kind of figure out what's going on, but the first half you really are not sure what's all going on. You eventually learn that she does not know who she is. She grew up in the country of this on Earth, on the land, and she eventually figured out that she is actually the queen. At least that's how it's translated in the English subtitles of the lost empire in the sky called Laputa. Laputa. Right. And then she's been it starts with her already having been kidnapped by the government. And then pirates attempt to steal her away because she has a valuable necklace, which is made of one of the crystals that was used by the Laputa people to create their Skycastle and make them levitate and fly. Sheeta falls out of the airship during the attempted kidnapping and is found by an orphan miner named Pooza, who's about her same age.
Orphan miner. As in ER, not
yes.
OR, but yes,
but also,
actually
yes.
both.
And Pooza wants to prove that his father was right about Laputa, because he himself was like a adventuring airship captain, and he had captured one photo of this lost castle in the Skycastle. And so they both of these two heroes go on the run together from the pirates and the government. They eventually get caught and they team up. Sheeta and Pazu escape. They get caught, they escape, and they team up with the pirates in order to get to Laputa. The pirates are pretty much just driven by treasure. That's all they want. They're actually good people for the most part. They just like to steal. Like they care about these kids. They don't want to kill them. As opposed to the government does not care. They do eventually make it there, and everyone is dead except for one robot that lives there. At that
time.
And it turns out that so Muska, like Colonel Muska, he's like our lead like secret agent,
antagonist.
like kind of like he's very Gestapo, very KGB coded,
very CIA.
Turns out he's actually from the other side of Sheeta's family. Of this, like there was a split in the royal family from Laputa. How do you pronounce it?
Laputa. Emphasis on the la.
And Muska then takes command of the robots. He rises them. He resurrects the robots to destroy the military.
And he does
that is there.
With the power of the crystal necklace.
Yes. And Sheeta and Pazu. Then so there's this whole running thing about Sheeta knowing these like spells that she can speak, and she knows one spell that she's not supposed to say. It's a destruction spell. They say it together, and it makes the city mostly fall apart. But this then kills Muska, forces everyone to leave, and the castle in the Skycastle sheds most of its layers to reveal just a big tree. And the one remaining robot and his animal friends stay, and presumably, we hope
they like float into the stratosphere.
We hope that, and the movie literally ends with the credits rolling over just this big tree floating over the earth. Well, the earth. We don't like it, you assume it's earth, but it doesn't look like earth. But you hope that the tree has its own atmosphere because those animals presumably breathe air. So that's the movie. It's pretty banging, honestly. The first half is just like pretty much as soon as they get going on Earth, it's a kind of a nonstop chase for like 30 minutes, and it's great. You got airships, got tanks, you got things called flaptors that look like they've got like four dragonfly-esque wings. That's what the pirates fly around in as their like personal devices.
Personal device.
Well, personal flying device. They have a larger kind of Zeppelin-esque airship. The battles are great. The characters are all over the top. A lot of very memorable characters. The English voice performances are not so great.
No.
Recommend the sub over the dub for this one. Rachel, what would you say is the first thing you want to talk about?
Oh,
If
gosh.
you have one thing you want to talk about.
One thing I want to talk about? I don't know. There's so many things I want to talk about, Cameron.
Well, I think we should talk about just one scene, and that's the muscle competition.
Oh my gosh.
See, we just described this kind of sweeping, almost epic seeming
There are so many moments.
sci-fi fantasy.
So many moments in this movie that just make you go, what?
This is a big movie.
Big
for sure.
movie.
But like to start granted, like this movie starts off a little more, I don't know, for me, like a Tintin adventure of like they're going after a treasure, they're getting chased by the bad guys, there's pirates, there's the government. It's very Tintin.
But the energy is very Lupin. If
yes.
you've watched any of the Lupin movies,
Also true.
Lupin the Third,
Yeah.
Castle of
Castle Cagliostro,
yes, any of those movies, just very
which
exaggerated.
was Hayao Miyazaki's first film.
Yeah, very.
So it makes sense.
Very exaggerated and just goofy, but because the whole movie is that whole thing, it works.
Yes, it has a consistent tone.
It's very
it knows
goofy.
what it wants
It's
to be.
so good.
In the muscle competition on hand, so the pirates,
Sorry, can I talk about the pirates?
Go for it.
So for context, the pirates are led by an older woman named Dola, and
the pirate grandma.
yes, she doesn't actually have
No,
grandchildren.
she's not actually. She's
She's a
older.
pirate
That's why we
mom.
call her grandma.
She's
But she just
pirate
has
mom.
kids.
And her husband, who we don't see till like an hour and a half into the film.
And he's got like 2 scenes, and he looks
They're
like Dr.
all right.
Robotnik.
He does.
And I love him.
And her husband, I'm guessing husband, I don't know. Maybe they're just like partners or something. I think a husband. And then they have 3 adult grown sons and then a couple of henchmen. Not a couple of henchmen, maybe a handful, like 15 or something.
Yeah, unclear exactly who the
Only
other
the
guys
amount they
are.
need
Yeah.
in each scene.
Exactly. It does fluctuate how many people they have working on their team.
They definitely had less, I think, by the time the movie ended.
Yes, for sure.
They lost a couple along the way.
But so the young men are chasing the kids through the town, which, by the way, is like the town is great because it's at the bottom of this valley, but they've also built into not a valley, a canyon, and they've built some houses like into the canyon,
mining canyon.
and it's just a great.
Canyon.
This movie is just so beautiful. It's so well designed, and they're the pirate boys are chasing our heroes into town, and they end up running into a local shopkeep or bar keep or something like that.
No, it's Pazu's boss.
Oh, right.
At the mine.
And pretty much they get into a flexing competition to see, and they pretty much flex so hard their shirts rip off. And it's hilarious. It's so good.
And I feel like it's the first taste of the movie where you go,
It's
what?
not been that goofy up to that point.
No,
for
and
sure.
you're
It's
really
been
just like-
fairly tame. Outside of the airships, it's been fairly tame.
what?
And also the fact that everyone is yelling all the time.
Yes, everyone is like, I'm going to use an example. So fair warning, because we do use mics. It's like if I spoke at this whole volume the entire time. I heard you turn me down.
Look, I don't like peaking audio. The people can tell that you're
The
being
whole time,
loud.
like some people, it's like, do you have the mic in your mouth?
No, it's funny that you say that though, because I do. I think it's in my notes. They do peak the mics a few times. There is sometimes where they are just straight
a
up.
little bit.
It sounds like this, like a couple of times. It's hilarious.
it's kinda-
and in Japanese, it's so funny.
And it's kind of like I just forgot his name. When the mics would peak in Mel Blanc.
Oh,
When he would voice anyone
Looney
from
Tunes.
Looney Tunes, and
Yeah.
he just screams and peaks the mic. That's some of my favorite animation humor. It's just so good. Quiet. Top tier humor.
yep, so good. And so that scene, I actually had seen the muscle competition before. How do you recommend looking that up? Watch that scene. If you like that scene, watch this movie. That's my selling point. Like if you enjoy the goofiness of it, if you enjoy how silly it is. Let's see what other notes we got. That makes me think. I mean, okay. So outside of big like narrative elements or design elements, just the thing that probably I love most about this movie is the first robot, who just initially
What a monster.
Initially he's just there. He's just laying down. He's kind of got the big dumb. He fell out of the Skycastle at some point in the past.
The government found him, because he fell out of the sky.
So that makes him very Iron Giant coded.
Arrival to Earth intensifies. and so what happens is, so this is when when the kids are first captured by the government. I can't remember what exact. The General Muska, the main antagonist, forces the girl whose name I'm turning into Cameron. I'm gonna have to pull the list of characters up because I can't remember any of them. He forces her to like activate the crystal necklace that she has, and it wakes up this robot who is like kind of in pieces, and he just actually starts raining like hellfire on this government castle base.
Absolutely rules. Initially it kind of builds. Initially he activates, and then we see him crawling around. He crawls directly at the camera at some point. I'm gonna see if I can find. He has chest protrusions on both his chest. He has protrusions on both his chest and his crotch, which makes him a little uncomfortable to look at.
We were kind of like, "Hey, hold on." And they're jets.
Yes, he just kind of flies around haphazardly.
And he has lasers, a little laser eye, and it cuts through stone like.
What the laser does is it impacts and then it explodes.
Yes.
Very similar to Godzilla in Godzilla -1.
And the thing that's also really funny is that the guards who are guarding him, they're like, "Oh, we gotta shut the door," and so they shut the door. And so what the robot does to get out, instead of busting through the door, cuts around this 6-foot stone wall, through this 6-foot stone wall with his laser, and just goes through. It's scary because everything they do can't penetrate it. It's made of a different metal. Something about it.
The best that they do is the really, really huge military airship fires around at it and hits it in the head, causing it a big dent that kind of momentarily.
And then they air raid it, basically. That eventually destroys it.
Yes. It gets also Iron Gianted.
Where's the giant, Mansley?
But it does a lot before it just absolutely wrecks shop. And there's some great shots of the castle burning around it. And really,
and he's trying to save Sheeta.
Yes.
He doesn't seem like it, but
Yes.
he's ultimately trying to save her.
And this really serves no narrative function other than to kind of prove that the Laputa people is that the name of the race?
Yeah,
Or was
it's
there
like
a
a
different
kingdom.
name? That was the name of the city, but did they have a different?
I don't think so.
Lapute. Oh, this is hard to say. Laputriches. Laputariches. The kingdom of Lapatria. I'm bad at trying to pronounce this.
Okay, let me look it up.
Here, do you know what? I'm gonna see if I can get to pronounce it for me.
Well, I tried to Google it, and I got Kingdom of the Lombards from Italy.
How to call castle? Oh, okay, never mind.
Oh, Laputrices? Laputricas?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, Laputa. Is it like Laputa riches? Like the word.
Laputриces. Laputrices. Laputrices.
That's wild. Why don't you just call them Lapitans?
Yeah. But this.
I see why they shortened it.
This scene with the robot just kind of proves that they had this technology.
Well, and the thing that's very interesting is as I've looked at it, because it's from at least the Ghibli wiki talks about so it's almost implied that there were multiple cities.
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about that later. There's kind of the opening credits have this kind of implied lore for this this kingdom that we can kind of dissect in a minute. I just my point is this whole scene with the robot destroying the castle has a very minor narrative function, but is
just cool.
It's just sick. And you have a lot of scenes in Ghibli films that are spectacle, but not just violence like this. Not like this knocks out. This is probably like top 10 coolest action scenes ever between.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and now we're
it's just so dang cool. And then the pirates show up and they're thropters and they like spray some like colored dust fog.
Yeah, like smoke.
They do smoke screen.
Smoke screen.
Around the airship.
And they rescue Sheeta. They've also got Pazu with them. And this like starts the chase. Muska, the government guy, has the crystal necklace that's going to lead them to Laputa.
Yeah.
And then the kids go with the pirates to basically see who can find it first by going in the same general direction.
What else do you like about this movie?
I feel like there's some very interesting connotations about the city itself.
Sure.
Because we've talked about this as a very alternate Earth in a way. Wait, we forgot about this. Sheeta prays.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
I don't.
It's towards the beginning. Pazu is hurt, and she says, "Please, God," like she's praying.
Interesting.
So I remember saying, I was like, interesting. But there's also another interesting kind of mild biblical reference. So one thing about the kingdom of Laputa specifically says that it was built by a people with great technological civilization over like 700 years ago in the movie from where it takes place then. Made by people who fled to the sky out of hatred for the wars of the earth. But then, it's almost like as we come to find out later, it was a big old battleship.
Yeah. They were ready to fight.
There's a crystal, which is the main source of power. We can get into this into a little bit later, but Muska says, this is the power that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah.
I think he's speaking metaphorically. I don't think he's speaking literally.
He doesn't seem like a metaphor guy to me. He seems pretty cut and dry. But so you see this, and especially as we see through the the battle prowess of the robots.
Uh-huh.
It's like putting, I don't know what a good, it's like putting a pack of velociraptors in like a child's park. That's the only way I feel like I can accurately describe it. Just absolute battle monsters versus armies that can't even like hope to come close to it. And so that's wild.
I agree.
So
this is a wild movie. Mm-hmm. It pretty much, as once it gets going in the first act, it kind of does not slow down.
Keeps going.
It does slow down tension-wise, because there's a long section where they're just on the pirate's airship, which is kind of like, it just kind of becomes that sequence in the middle of Treasure Planet where it's just the boy and the pirate getting along and like doing chores on the ship, which I love. I'm all here for.
They're building their adopted father's
There's just no Goo Dolls playing this time.
Dude, I freaking love that song. It's such a good song.
But if we're talking about just scenes, I do want to talk about bigger picture stuff, but just this movie has so many incredible scenes. How the chase starts, is they are driving on train tracks, and it's just this very long extended sequence where it's like, and I can't remember what was someone. I think it was there in a cart, in like a rail cart, like a mining cart.
They flagged down a train that was going by. The kids.
And they got on a train.
Yeah, just a little train. It's not too big. It just had a couple of carts.
Yeah, it's more similar to a mining cart. Oh no, they did get on a train. You're right, and they stole one of the train's like attached carts.
Yes.
But they're getting chased by the pirates in their car.
On the tracks. And this isn't like train tracks on the ground. These are elevated train tracks like 150 feet above the bottom of the canyon.
And then the damn government shows up with this thick boy. Who you'll see him in just a second. It's a tank train. And it's so... This movie is... Okay,
and he's unfazed.
He's
like, what a surprise! It's the army.
Man, Americans be like,
when you see them transporting like Humvees through like rural Midwest, and you're like, huh? And someone on Facebook's gonna be like, "We're going to war."
This gets into a big picture thing. This movie looks like concept art, and it's incredible.
Yes,
it's just so well drawn. There's like this train is not itself animated. It's being the background is moving and there's like steam coming off it, so it looks like it's moving, but it's just a single drawing of this train, a very beautifully detailed painted drawing. And that's why this movie looks like concept art. And there's so many, both obviously live action films, but also animated films that have incredible, I mean, as I'm preaching the choir here about there being incredible concept art, and the eventual movie kind of moves too far away from it and it kind of loses whatever kind of aesthetic or design that had. But this movie is not that. If anything, this movie is so incredibly... I mean, I don't know about if it had... You got to assume there was concept art for this movie because that's how movies work. But it does not feel like there's much of a difference, which is probably not a particularly unique thing to say about a Miyazaki film.
Unfortunately, a lot of time, concept art often gets tamped down for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Apparently, also... Miyazaki borrowed the name Laputa from Gulliver's Travels.
Oh, interesting.
Which also had Laputa as an imaginary flying island.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I did not know that. Okay, so I think that those are the main scenes I want to talk about. Just big picture stuff. Just talked about. I mean, we're gonna say it every time. Gorgeous animation, but this one does feel unique in its energy. There's a lot of like wood exploding, and there's like individual splinters of wood, which we actually talked about with the Mononoke episode. But there's a lot more in this one, I feel like. And this like the way fire is animated, because fire is very important to this movie.
Air battles.
Yeah. The movement is so important in this movie. The movement of the ships, of the people, of the robots. This movie feels like, it's kind of crazy this movie did not itself become sort of major franchise, because this feels like what so many like when American studios want to start a franchise like based on a YA book, they will make a movie and then hope they obviously want it to become a big thing, but they're never good, and that's why they don't become a thing. Something this good and this imaginative and this sweeping feels like you could have a prequel about the Laputa people. You could have further adventures of our main characters. You could have further adventures of the pirates. There's so much, like this feels so very New Hope-y because there's so little information given, but there's clearly a very deep world here. And this individual movie works so well because it doesn't feel the need to explain to you what this government is, doesn't need to explain how the airships work, doesn't really need to explain beyond a very cool opening credit sequence with no dialogue what this civilization looked like. There's no flashback, there's very little exposition. Like there is a lot of exposition, but it's normally very minute. It's normally just explaining what is relevant to this one story, not necessarily explicit world building. And I really respect that. And on the other hand, though, I would gladly watch more set in this world. But as it is, we just have this one movie, and it rules. Other big picture stuff. I do love the idea of thematically this idea of this lost civilization that kind of you show up and they destroyed themselves. It's almost the opposite of something like Disney's Atlantis, where they get there and the civilization is still there and they're still great and they still have the technology and they're still perfect. Like there's no implication in Disney's Atlantis of like, I think in that movie they saved themselves by sinking themselves. Mm-hmm. Whereas, so actually this is weirdly relevant. I was listening to a podcast here a week ago. I think I've cited it on the podcast before. It is called Haunted Cosmos. They come at paranormal and I don't know the exact. I'm sure there's a term for it. Things that have not been embraced by modern science and may or may not be true. You know, myth, legends. They look at it from a Christian perspective. And they were talking about Atlantis, and that kind of led them into talking about, you know, they talked about what might actually be Atlantis, which is this city that was found in the middle of the Sahara. But there's also, it gets them talking about things like the Tower of Babel. And I think that the Puda, these people, they very much reflect that of like civilizations. This is not explicit in this movie, but it is a civilization that kind of grew too big.
Some of the things that they're saying on, and by they I mean the internet. But no, I agree, and I think especially because the intro scene, it's very, very different stylistically. It's almost in the artistic design of like old nautical maps. And we see glimpses of not just one, but many, many flying cities.
Yeah, this was a gigantic civilization at one point.
And like, or a bunch of different civilizations. And we see glimpses of them crashed on the ground as well.
Yes. Yeah, there is a whole narrative implied in the opening credits just through these like, they're animated and they're almost still images with a little bit of movement.
Mm-hmm. One thing though, Sheeta claims, like at the very beginning, which I did not remember this till I looked it up, Sheeta claims that the Loppertons voluntarily left so they could live on the Earth. But someone else says that apparently in the early drafts of the movie, did you hear that?
I think that was my chair.
Okay. Apparently in the early drafts that were later abandoned, so, you know, who knows how true this exactly is that the Loppertons were allegedly so dependent on technology that it weakened their physical state.
Oh, interesting.
And a disease broke out and killed most of the population, leading to the abandonment of the city. But that was abandoned. That draft was abandoned. But it seems quite... it seems quite likely. I think the other thing is that at some point there was a split in the royal family. They talk about that. So either that happened when they left, like they just scattered once they got to the ground after they abandoned the city and they each gave different stories, or potentially like a civil war happened on the city and then they abandoned it.
Yeah,
it's not
it seems to me that this opening animation is implying that the weather is actually because this opening credits starts with a woman blowing, like almost like an image of a god, and then you see storms envelop these cities and then they're going down. There's no, I mean, it makes logical sense that you would have a war. This is the opening image of the some sort of goddess. It would make logical sense that a war is what would cause such things to break down.
Someone else also mentioned this, and this is something, because we talked about the ravines. The ravines don't look to me, at least with the technology that's had at the moment by the people on the ground, does not seem natural, but it's too much of a scale that it seems that it can be man-made.
You're talking about the valley that the people live in
yes,
this movie?
It is like sheared. It is not. It is like flat, smooth, and somewhat. Almost knocked the mic off. Someone else brought this up in the Reddit that there are some overhead scenes where the Earth just looks like it had previously had war. Like, we see a lot of big craters in some of the overhead shots. And honestly, my thought was some of these caverns kind of look a little, not caverns, but some of these canyons look cut to me, like by lasers. And one of the things that really kind of drives this home for me that basically, I'm getting to the theory that if they're having multiple of these flying cities and wars broke out and they all had technology of this kind, that they were just trying to nuke each other essentially, and the Earth got the brunt of it. But the thing that really kind of throws me off is it's at the beginning of the movie. There's essentially just a straight down borehole that Sheeta and Pazu float down with the necklace, escaping the pirates and the government. That thing is deep.
I assume that was from because a mining town.
I think so, but it's it looked to me so deep.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying from the context I take from the movie, that when we first meet, Sheeta's the girl. Pazu. They say that they're gonna have to move on to a new mine.
Yes, but I don't know. It strikes me because the mine, that scene looks so much different than that hole to me.
And here's what I would say about that though, is that the movie, there's a reason why it's not giving us too many details, is because I don't think the movie, the way Miyazaki tells stories, he's not as interested in like literal details. He's always very happy to just kind of give you an experience to more make a point. And I think the fact that the movie ends with a giant tree floating in space is very emblematic of the story he's trying to tell. The fact that the titular castle in the Skycastle is this big military complex built around a tree, and then that all fades away and all that's left is animals and one robot. Mm-hmm. That's what the movie kind of wants you to think about, I think, ultimately, is like regardless, there's always going to be these battles. Like, the government's still trying. There's still this Muska who's remnant of the royal line. There's always going to be another person. That's kind of what actually I love about Star Wars, is that every new iteration of Star Wars has a new evil guy. Like, there's always another one. And it's much more about Pazu and Sheeta are willing to sacrifice. They're willing to do good to maybe try to change the direction of things, because previously we would presume someone in Sheeta's position would have just continued the war, continued the battle, continued fighting for it, and they were willing to maybe sacrifice. They're not, you would think that modern civilization would be more interested in gaining technology and gaining, but they're just, what Pazu wants most, his final objective is just to go to where Sheeta grew up. He wants to go to her homeland on the Earth. He doesn't care about the technology. They don't care about the riches. They just want to live a life together, which is kind of a beautiful thing for your two characters to want to pursue. That's just how I read it.
Yeah, I just think there's some interesting lore implications in the fact that the beginning especially implies that at one point everyone left Earth into these.
Do you think
cities.
Everyone left, or just this?
A very significant amount, it seemed.
And that's an interesting question. Because how I read it was, and the movie did not quite go in this. I more read this towards the beginning, but I still think there's an interesting perspective of, you have the class of people who are flying in airships. Like, the airship that we see with the government at the beginning of the movie is very classy, very literal high class, people in suits, people like dining. And then on the actual physical Earth, we see the mining people.
Yes, but what I mean is in the very beginning, in the intro.
No, I know, but you also see people digging in that. Like, there is still miners in that opening, as you have almost two literal classes of people. Is some civilization left, but there were people who were left behind.
Yes, but also in that beginning, you see progress of technology. You even talked about it. One of the guys mining looks like he has a smartphone on him.
Yeah, it's a very interesting shot that's hard to reach. That's a small detail.
But so we see it, and it starts going through like basic industrialization, and then it increases until we have the flying cities. And there's a very significant amount. Basically, what I was getting at, industrialization, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences, I don't know, took a lot of people into the sky, and then at some point, they all came down. So I was just saying, there's some interesting implications there.
Yeah, there's one of the really great shots in that opening credits is the city is crashed and people are just filing out of it.
And it's a ton of people.
It's very reminiscent of like refugees, of like the people scattered after that.
People jumping down the inflatable slide after an airplane crash.
Yeah, exactly. And that to me then implies that the people who remained in power, and did they say, is it like thousands of years? Like how long has it been?
700 years.
Is that it? Really?
That is what it says, yes.
Interesting.
Which does make me wonder that if there was an extremely significant battle that just destroyed all of this. Like if there were multiple cities, if there was a big battle in this history, and that's why there's none of this technology to find.
Yeah.
You have how many generations since then? Probably like 15 or something. And absolutely no evidence of it aside from half a photo that Pazu's father took.
I do want to loop back to my original point, which was parallels between this and something like Babel.
Yes.
And what I think is like Babel is about a civilization building a tower to heaven, trying to make themselves great, trying to be like God, and God deliberately strikes them down and scatters them. Whereas this civilization, very similarly, literally rose up to try to make themselves great or try to leave the earth, and the natural elements brought them down. Some sort of God, whether it's meant to be literal, metaphorical, a God brought them down, the nature brought them down, and the people scattered again.
And sorry.
And that's an interesting result of man's hubris of like, and they're headed there again. Like a man like Muska is trying to go. He doesn't read it as a cautionary tale to not do it. He just wants to do it again, and just for his own power. It's not even like an interesting element of this story could have been, theoretically, Sheeta could take control of it and use it for good and go down and like rescue. A modern version of this movie would be it ends on a cliffhanger, and the next two films are a big war between Sheeta using the robots and using the Skycastle to take down the evil government. But that's not what happens. This movie does not have any conception of this being used for good. Is that the only way forward is for it to be destroyed, which is a very bold take on it, I think.
And you also have an interesting parallel to, is it Greek mythology with Icarus? Flew
Sure,
so close to the sun,
absolutely.
wax melted his wings.
Which the robots with their flying wings, I think, also bring about that imagery very deliberately, I think. Hearing someone yelling. Do you like Skycastle and the Skycastle? Do you enjoy this film? Do you have something to say about its implications on the hubris of man?
Athena, what do you think about the hubris of men?
She's mad at me for closing the laptop bag. She can't get back in.
Is.
Yeah, that's my big... I'll just loop back around to the animation, man. The animation, like, none of this means anything if the movie is not both fun and beautiful to look at, and it is both consistently. Also,
what a style choice that all the women in this film are built. And not like... I in a lot of animation, women are very dainty.
Yes.
These women could kill someone, and they probably have.
Oh, thick grandma is definitely killed
Dola
some
has
men.
absolutely killed.
She's got a body count, and I'm not talking about kissing guys. Kiss of death.
Kissing guys. Big praying mantis energy.
I guess the other thing I would like to say about this movie is it's very interested. I guess I did say it's more interested in its story and its experience. And to add to that experience, it is interested in the detail of like how things work. Like, I feel like the robots seem very well thought out. We spend a lot of time exploring the actual Skycastle itself. Just Puzo and Cheetah just wandering around.
I need to know. They find a memorial at the base of the tree that a robot has been tending to and laying flowers at. I need to know what that says.
See, I think the fact that they don't tell you
so
is
upset
very
that they don't
indicative of
tell me. I
Miyazaki's
hate
motivation
that.
for this movie.
I don't like it. I want to know.
That's exactly the kind of movie he made. Is
I'm
that
a
they
Snoop, Cameron? I need to know.
like that? This is like ultimate like. There's almost always these kind of stories. There's someone left over. There's a person. There's a group of people. There's someone to give exposition to explain things. And I love that there's literally no one else that can talk is left alive. Other than the one robot, he can't talk. You just have this memorial that literally can't be read, which is like, I think if I was to read that, what that's supposed to mean on a deeper level, it's like no matter all the stuff that these people built, this gigantic thing. They left this memorial that no one can read. Like there's nothing left. They didn't actually leave anything behind for anyone, other than the robots that stumble off the side and go down and wreck shop.
Now I did just Google it. Here's what Reddit has to say.
Great.
Reddit allegedly says that it has a cuneiform like script, like a Sumerian cuneiform. Like, that's apparently what it looks like. Or apparently there's a Babylonian syllabary counterpart. No one knows what it says, but here are some thoughts that people have. A potential grave for the first king of Lapta, who formulated the castle and its garden. A warning that maybe warned of the power it had. A thank you to the gardens. The song she sings at the end that talks about going to the grounds and planting seeds, was that the credit song?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what she sang. The other theory, and I think this might be my favorite, was I like to imagine that it was some kind of dank meme.
Great.
Wait, can you imagine? It's like putting a QR code on your gravestone for people like thousands of years in the future to find, and it's actually Rickroll. That's what it is. It's a
okay, I'm gonna try to answer your question. Here is the end credits. Oh, come on. Here we go. I was close. Sorry, I went a little too far back.
We were like so out of it by the end of it that we were too busy thinking about the tree in the stratosphere.
For some reason, it's not. Oh. There's the song. But yeah, I love that they don't give that answer. I think that both the mystery of this lost civilization is really interesting, but also like it speaks to they had this like quote unquote great civilization. They built all this stuff and it doesn't mean anything in the end because they destroyed themselves. Also, fun fact, we didn't get to this point in our English language voice watch. We watched part of it in English and part of it and the most of it in Japanese. Muska, the main villain, voiced by Mark Hamill, and the general by Jim Cummings. So fun facts there. And yeah, I think that's the main stuff I wanted to talk about. I've got two last segments, Rachel quotes and hmms.
I talked a lot during this film.
So Rachel quotes. Rachel, why is everyone always yelling in this movie? We already talked about that.
We already talked about that. It was like 10 minutes. It was like 15 minutes and we were like, they're screaming.
Our main character, Pazu, right? He's supposed to be like 10 or 11, but the voice actor is an adult man in the English version. And you just went, he's a grown man in a child's body.
Very Caleb Doom energy.
Yes.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
At one point, I didn't write down what was happening, but Dola the pirate grandma was doing something. You just said, "I want to be her."
I do want to be her.
It was probably when she was running faster than all of her sons.
Girl boss. Like, honestly, I know she runs that ship tight. Like,
at one point, it was probably after Pazu revealed that he was an orphan, or Sheeta revealed that she was an orphan, but you just went, Dead Parents Club!
if you can't tell which of us talks during movies, you can tell who wrote all the notes this time and who just yapped.
Yes. Pazu ends up initially teaming up with the pirates to save Sheeta, and you just go, I've seen how Pirates of the Caribbean ends. So, the villain, I did not write down the context for this, but I think the context was the villain keeps talking about squeezing information out of the little girl, and you just went, quit talking about squeezing that little girl.
Did I mention it? Like, the government officials mentioned like 2 or 3 times. They're like, squeeze her harder. And I'm like, stop that.
There's another portion where the gigantic airship arrives, and I wish I had the time code. I don't have the time code written down. It docks really, really harshly, and you just, obligatory SpongeBob reference. You're good. You're good.
Because it connects in this tiny little. It's like if a blimp had like a point.
Yeah.
And it looked like there was like a flash drive at the end of this blimp, and it just like docked into a flash drive dock in the building. It was wild.
So good.
I think my first reference was actually to Despicable Me.
Which was what?
It's like that scene in the first movie when Gru crashes his ship and almost takes out like a chapel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're good. You're good.
Upon the first robot transforming into his flight mode, you went, he's a transformer! And then the bulges on his chest turned out to be rocket, and you went, rocket titties!
I just, look, it's so... Now be careful when you Google this. Don't Google robot titties. Don't do that. Just Google robot and castle from the sky, and you're gonna see what I'm talking about.
And we are now on to our favorite segment. It's long. This one's
So many.
real long. Already said thick grandma. I'm gonna see if I can play there's at one point. Pazu and Sheeta eat together, and they're eating just fried eggs, just straight up, and
it's just a lot of weird lip smacking noises.
yes, I'm trying to find it.
That's it. That's the
all.
only noise.
It's the whole sound effect, and I'm having trouble finding
I
it.
do not like hearing people eat. Unless
here it
it's
is.
Athena, because that's just crunchy.
What we need. Oh.
I hate it. That'd give me the ick so fast if I were Sheeta.
Yeah, it's
That'd
gross.
give me the
It
ick.
sucks.
Just stop. He looks like he's chewing with his mouth closed. He does not sound like it.
These main characters have no. They will not hesitate to pistol whip a child. It happens a couple of times. And yeah, I realized I was in the English language version. I'm trying to go over to the Japanese version. What else we got? We have. There's just a scene where there's a very. They reveal to Sheeta that she's the queen, and this is a still image of her shocked face, and it just slowly and silently pulls back. And this movie's beautifully animated, but that is some cheap ass animation right there, and it's so funny.
Look, they gotta cut corners somehow with the
no
rest
music,
of everything
no
else
sound
they had to
effects.
draw.
It's just a still image.
Maybe they forgot to animate it, and so when they did the final review, they had to put that in. So just draw a still frame.
They're after. So pretty much the government takes Sheeta, and they just pretty much send Pazu on his way, and he's just crying and running up the hill, and he just falls over. And oh man,
when kids trip when they're running,
it's hilarious.
It's the funniest.
It's so funny. They brought it upon themselves. Why? What are you running for? Why are you
also,
running?
he's sprinting. He's so
good.
fast.
At one point, Thick Grandma says, "I've been a woman for 50 years." And that statement raises a couple of different questions as to what exactly she means by that.
Also, in that scene, so Pazu goes home, and the pirates ambush him in his home. They've been waiting for him to come back because they want to get to Laputa, because they want riches. They want to raid it, basically. They want to steal the gold. And so you have this scene where they tie up Pazu, and they're eating. I don't know if it's his food or if they just like brought a bunch of food down from their ship. But Dola is like grilling this 10, 12-year-old boy, saying if you were a real man, you wouldn't have let them take your girl. It's like, what?
We already talked about the peaking audio. I think this is an example here. Gotta just give it a second. Nani?
Yeah, you can kind of hear it a little bit.
I wish I had written down time code. I'm going to go back just a second, see if I can get a better listen at it. Doesn't quite get it. I wish I didn't write down a time code, unfortunately. Let's see. You got peaking audio. So the robot, he's in pieces initially. And whenever he reactivates, you see he's got like mushy insides that the wires coming out and like it's gross. The robot sits up and turns his head. He looks directly into the camera. And you just go, I don't like the way he's looking at me, Cameron. Big ol' eyes and big old titties. And then he crawls towards the camera, which is also very upsetting. I think this happens twice. A soldier grabs Sheeta by her ponytail and like picks her up.
Yes.
Very unsettling to do that to a small child.
Me when Athena's not listening, I gotta grab her by her scruff.
At one point, Dola and Pazu are in one of the thropters together. Wait, is it thropters?
Flapters.
Flapters. Thropters are the things from Dune.
Oh.
Flapters, that's what they're called here. And she gets knocked out, and she's like strapped to the thing, and the top half of her body is just ragdolling around, and it's so good.
Oh, so funny.
So then once they're on the pirate airship, Dola gives Sheeta some clothes, and they walk by the other pirates.
Because So the context for this is that when they were in Pazu's house, Dola says that Sheeta reminds Dola of her. And her sons latched onto this.
They can't let it go.
And they can't let it go. And there's 3 of them. And one of them asks one of their brothers, like, wait, she'll grow up to be like mom? And I'm like, And so then
they're walking by. So Sheeta is now dressed like their mother, or at least like wearing some of her clothes, her big puffy clothes. And they're silent and they're just staring at her. And one just goes, "Beautiful."
Yeah, it's very much like
the rest of the sequence is very weird. It could have been sweet. It could have been endearing. If they took her on as like a little sister figure.
Yeah.
But because she's so young, it becomes very creepy.
Because it didn't come off like a little sister thing.
Because then what would be a very funny joke is...
I'm gonna make a joke. When the homeschool boys meet a new girl at the function.
So they give Sheeta, the typical womanly duties of taking care of the kitchen and doing dishes and cooking, and one of the sons sneaks off from his normal job to go help her, and he finds that there are already a bunch of the other pirates in there,
and she's put him to work, which is the funniest part. She's not even phased. She goes, "Oh, help wash dishes." So there's 6 of them already in it. That got a chuckle out of me.
This movie needs to make a decision. Either this whole dynamic needs to be different, or she needs to be 18 minimum.
At least.
Yeah.
Was that the scene where I went, where he stepped away from his duties and went into the kitchen?
I mean, all of these
And
make us go.
There's a very specific moment where I was mid-sentence and I just went,
At one point, Pazu's up in like the crow's nest on lookout, and Sheeta goes up to see him, and they have like a pretty like bonding conversation.
It's a DTR. It's not a DTR.
And the whole ship uses a series of tubes to talk to each other, just like the internet. It's a series of tubes. And Dola is listening the whole time, and that just when it cuts to her just listening on their conversation, that just makes me go, shouldn't be doing that, Dola.
But
that
then it
what?
switches again, and all the crew are also listening in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I made a joke that where I lived in college had a front porch, and the front windows were very thin. And unfortunately, where I lived was a central location for a couple of other houses that we were associated with. And people would have DTRs on our front porch.
Define the relationship.
Yes, define the relationship. So it was very awkward when we're trying to watch TV and people are having a very serious conversation. We have like shut the blinds and pretend that we're not hearing them like
express
pour
their
out their
true
souls
emotions
to each other. And it's like, guys, we're just trying to watch Community. we're just trying to watch YouTube.
At one point, the military airship is firing at the pirate ship, and their shells explode upon contact with clouds, which is a very moment logically. Once they get to the actual castle in the Skycastle, Sheeta and Puzo are like tied to each other, and they can't get untied. So Puzo just picks up Sheeta and starts running. That definitely give you a stop that. There's like spider head beavers. Is what I have. I have Spoder written down by accident, typo.
Yeah, there's some
the
weird,
animals
like,
in this movie. There's also I didn't have it written down in this section. There, it's not quite but it's definitely interesting to look at their like Scottish Terrier cows. They have a very interesting look.
The little cat things that are on the robot, little cat fox things,
which looks straight
eyes.
up like is it Eevee from Pokemon?
Yeah, it kind of look like Eevee. Did this predate Pokemon?
It's close. I think Pokemon's just a couple of years later, I believe.
1995. Predated
Really?
this by about 9 years.
I thought it was at least early 90s. Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em.
It almost looks like a Digimon, actually.
Sure, fair.
Which
Mom, I want Pokemon. We have Pokemon at home.
we actually had Pokemon cards.
Yeah, 96.
I still have my Pokemon cards. I could bring them out right now if I wanted to.
You know, anytime you have a friend talk about Pokemon, you should send them a screenshot of the Wikipedia article. It says the franchise's target audience is children aged 5 to 12.
Once a year. So the Pokemon cards that I had were originally my brother's, and then I added to them. About once a year or every other year, my brother just texts me out of nowhere. Hey, do you still have our Pokemon cards? And the answer is yes. And he goes, okay, because some of them might be valuable someday.
Oh, wow.
I don't think they actually are.
Informal development of Pokemon started in 86, which is the year this movie came out, which is kind of crazy.
There's little funky creatures.
And those same creatures, I listened to a different podcast about, obviously different. I
cheating
didn't
on
listen to
us?
this podcast about, I listened to a podcast about this movie, and they said that those are the same creatures that are in Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm
'Cause
like,
you had
I've
mentioned
seen
that.
those things before.
Yeah.
I've seen that little funky little furry guy.
And what else have we got here? Government agents start shooting at Pazu immediately, and they pull Sheeta up. Oh, okay. So on site, the government agents, as soon as they see Pazu, they do not even know that Pazu is there. I think they don't
won't hesitate.
just no hesitation at shooting at
they
this
catch him
child.
on the cheek.
So yeah, and then they
Very
grab
nice.
Sheeta by the pigtails again.
Very nice Ezra Bridger reference.
So then,
Cheek scar.
so the pirates are captured, and they're tied. Their arms are tied behind their leg, and they're all sitting kind of cross-legged at the edge
my
of the castle,
gosh.
and Pooza is like crawling underneath them
The stone.
and pulls a stone out from between Thick Grandma's legs, and his face pops up there, and it's very uncomfy. It's a very uncomfy shot.
Because then she hands him a weapon, like a gun, and
I dropped a quarter.
and he leaves to go save Sheeta. He hands them a knife so they can cut themselves free. Tell me why this woman goes, he's become a man now.
I have
it
no
was
answers.
just like, oh, as much as I love Dola, I cannot condone that.
Robots. So upon the villain releasing all the robots, they're like crawling on all fours. Like it's a wave of them crawling on all fours. It's very weird. Pazu crawling out of. Oh, so he at one point is at the very bottom of the castle and
It's
has
like
to
a
get up.
big metal sphere.
And it's just sheer metal face, and he's somehow crawling up it and is aggressively breathing the whole way.
And absolute grippers on his feet, like full spread toe clench. They put detail into that.
Muska just straight up decks Sheeta, again, a 10-year-old girl. Muska shoots off.
Her pigtails.
I have Muska shoots off Muska's pigtails. Sheeta's pigtails. Okay, I'm going to save this one. This is the most moment of the whole movie. I'm going to save it.
Oh, no.
Sheeta runs straight into Dola, welcoming bosom, and Dola squeezes her between them.
It's one of those things where when you look at the character design in a movie from the mid-'80s, you kind of go, are they going to do it? And they didn't until the last 10 minutes of the film.
So, yeah. Upon surviving this whole ordeal, Sheeta nearly suffocates in Dola's big titties.
She's definitely like an L cup.
Great. On this is not in alphabet. That's chronologically the last one. Earlier, once they are on the castle, it's just Muska and Sheeta, and Muska says to Sheeta, "We're going to be alone together for a long time."
Yeah.
And finally, and this is why I had to switch to the Japanese dub. I'm gonna let this clip play out with no commentary and let our audience decide what they want to hear or don't want to hear. Sorry, I gotta find it exactly. The time code on HBO Max is not super easy to use. Okay, here we are. Yep, okay. So the English translation for this term is "my eyes," is what he is yelling, but that's
no, Cameron, stop.
The Japanese term.
No,
is a little. It's a little. So, that concludes the segment, as well as our hot Miyazaki summer.
I think one thing that is very important is that obviously we are not making fun of language. It did catch us a little off guard.
Okay, hot Miyazaki summer is a decent name, but I was hoping to find what is the general theme. Is there a connecting point between these three movies? We've got Up on Poppy Hill. We have relationship. We have a very clear friendship between each one. Friendship / romantic relationship.
There's an old lady in all of them.
Well, let's see. Is there Is there an old lady? There's not really an old lady in Mononoke.
The old lady at the beginning.
The very beginning of the movie.
Wise
Yes,
woman
that's true.
who said, "Well, looks like you got injured defending our town. Get lost."
So you've got the core relationships between a young man and a young woman. I don't know how we would turn that into Miyazaki's summer lovin' fun times.
Good night, everybody.
They all focus on the past and trying to kind of redeem what has been lost
For the next generation.
Yeah. These are all too conceptual. I don't think we're going to get a name. The Lost Days of Summer with Hayao Miyazaki and
Breaking generational curses. Summer.
Okay, I'm gonna Google search just some summer terminology because this like I don't. Summer terminally. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Google. Number 1, sunburn. Number 3, canoe. Oh, man. I should have done this off mic. So, like... So, you got the relationship. You got the building of the past. Or the redeeming of the past. Trying to, like, go back to what was. Yes. Rachel's lost at her own joke.
I don't know if I want to say it.
I'll leave that up to you. I normally try to trust people when they say that.
Fatherless summer activities.
Ha. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, all 3 have orphans.
They ain't got no dad.
Or just Miyazaki's orphaned summer. Bye-bye, daddy summer.
Hot non-daddy summer.
No hot dad bod summer.
Look, they're all lacking parents. It's an observation.
Hayo and Goro have family issues summer.
Miyazaki therapy session summer. Family therapy.
Childhood trauma. August. Ghibli. So technically, it's Ghibli was the theme, but also Miyazaki. You could go Miyazaki or Ghibli. Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli presents No Parent Summer.
Well,
Miyazaki presents Kids Only Summer.
Well, the kids in From Up on Poppy Hill, like, had some parents.
Yeah, but you had a central character who's...
They both lost their...
their
biological dads.
Yeah, both biological dads were gone.
Yeah.
Gan.
Gan.
And Mononoke's parents are gone because she was adopted by wolves.
Young children fight the government summer.
Yeah, that's definitely burn down the system summer. Summer, burn down the summer. From up on Mononoke's Skycastle hill.
Don't like that.
Poppin' in the Mononoke Skycastle. Get poppin'.
Actually, terrible. Double L on that one. Athena, what do you think?
From up on Princess Skycastle Hill. Castle in the Poppy Hill. Castle in the Princess Poppy Hill.
From up on Podcast Hill.
From up on Podcast Hill.
Microphone in the sky.
Podcast in the sky. Princess Podcaste.
Princess Mana Yappy.
Podcast Mononoke. So that would work if we did like multiple episodes on the one movie.
I know. Why don't we just think about this now?
Oh man, because I like From Up on Podcast Hill.
That's what Athena considers the table.
But that's just the one movie.
Mia podcasty. I'm gonna think
Miyazaki dead parent summer. The Miyazaki Dead Parent Trilogy. The Miyazaki Dead Dad Trilogy. The Miyazaki I'm going on this adventure to cope for the loss of my father adventures.
Oh, no.
The Miyazaki Dead Dad August.
Oh, no.
The Miyazaki Dead Dad 3-pack.
Coping through anime August.
Coping. Interesting.
Man, we're bad at this, Cameron.
I'm looking for some other summer words. Okay, so there's like endless summer is an idea. Is there something there? Endless summer, dead dads. Dead, even though your dad is dad, summer is forever.
The dog days of dead dads.
Oh my gosh. The Miyazaki dead the Miyazaki Dog Days of Dead Dad Summer. Is that it? Or August? Is August better because it wasn't all of summer? Well, it needs to be because it's Dog Days of Summer. The Miyazaki Dog Days of Dead Dad Summer. I think that alliteration's pretty darn good. I like that. Okay, here we go. We got it. Thank you for being with us for the Miyazaki Dog Days of Dead Dad Summer. Now I'm totally forgetting how to spell Miyazaki.
Miya.
Saki. Okay.
ZA.
Miyazaki Dog Days of Dead Dad Summer. Great. Love it. Print it. That's it. We
Put on a merch.
got our name.
We need a t-shirt for that.
Well, all this goofiness leads us into even more goofiness. It is Meme Minute, but is it longer than
Not tonight because someone didn't make a meme.
Is it longer than the list for Castle in the Skycastle?
It is not.
I'm going to see if I have any videos.
I have 2 videos.
Let's see them.
Cameron didn't make a meme today.
I forgot. Also, I didn't have enough normal memes to present it anyways or with.
Athena, can you believe it? She can't, Cameron. Look at her.
She is flat on her back. Is she playing with something or is she having night terrors over there? I can't see her face.
No, she just does
awake?
that sometimes. She just rolls on her back a lot. Isn't that right? Did you hear her?
I did.
Hey.
Here comes the kitty.
She's gonna stare at her bowl and wait for me to feed her, which isn't happening.
Let's see them videos.
I'm probably gonna have to explain this meme to you because you're not on the internet.
What?
So there's a song. I can't remember the actual title. There's a song by Lana Del Rey, Yes to Heaven, and the lyric is, if you dance, I'll dance, and if you don't, I'll dance anyways. Okay. And so people have been replacing dance with other things.
I see. I don't remember if I saw this exact video, but I saw a similar video that finally gave a spelling to that sound, and it's the combined UR and the combined AE. Linguistic friend Caleb can probably tell us the term for those characters. Oh, it's not combined UR. Sorry, I totally bumped my mic.
One's an umlaut.
Umlaut?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that?
Yes, it's German.
Oh, well, there you go.
Umlaut
So
is
it's
the 2 dots.
I see.
I took German. Stop that.
Good video. Fun video. What else you got? I'm glad you explained it because I would have not understood it whatsoever.
And I was like, I gotta explain this for the old man.
Episode 3, Anakin.
It's when Anakin arrives on Mustafar and he shuts the door with his fingers, but it folds to a clip of a child sitting in a folding chair and the chair folds on him.
Uh-huh. Is that both your videos?
I got 3.
Oh, you have 3?
Oh
okay.
my gosh.
Show them to me, girl.
When It Friday. That is
so good.
a video of a super battle droid from
Lego Star Wars.
Lego Star Wars, the one specifically in the Mos Eisley Cantina from Phantom Menace. When Anakin is being interviewed by the Jedi Council, and Ki-Adi-Mundi asks, "Your thoughts dwell on your mother?" Anakin, "My thoughts dwell on your mother."
Ooh. Nice. Classic.
This is from Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which I did unfortunately see. You try to kill an enemy begging for mercy and everyone calls you a hero. But when I kill a guy who was literally about to do the exact same thing to me a few minutes ago and everyone calls me a heartless psychopath, that doesn't seem fair. And it's Bay versus Optimus Prime speaking to G1 Optimus Prime.
So both of my memes relate to the cancellation of the Acolyte, and I think I saw this joke in multiple forms, but it's the image from the very end of the Acolyte of the one green Jedi Master going to talk to Yoda.
Oh, I was like, you mean Yoda?
No, the woman. You just see Yoda from behind very briefly, and it says, "I guess we're never going to find out who this little guy is." What else you got?
Is a scene from Godzilla 2014 where the main character is visiting his dad in his little house in Japan. I don't get that many visitors, clearly. In the background is someone's bedroom filled with Godzilla merch.
Very good. Give me another one.
They don't know I love Godzilla. You don't shut up about it. We do, and it's the guy standing in the corner at the party.
Those memes always landed well for me. So, infamous scene from episode 3, Palpatine turns to Anakin. "Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" Anakin, "No, they canceled the Acolyte."
That's good.
All right, give me your last couple memes.
Godzilla updated his profile picture. Super X commented, "A smile might be good." Godzilla responded, "Nothing to smile about in my life."
That's real good. I like it. I like it a lot.
Last one. Had to put him on straight out of the womb, and it's someone who's put their phone in their baby's carrier at the hospital. It's Revenge of the Sith.
Gotta start him young.
Gotta start him young.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, friends. I hope that you enjoyed walking through the Dead Dad trilogy of the Miyazakis with us, also known as the Miyazaki Dog Days of Dead Dad Summer. Yeah. But this was our specific trilogy. This is great. Skycastle and the Skycastle. Good movie. Really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Go watch it. Castle in the Sky.
Yeah.
It's such a hoot.
It's got big Star Wars energy. It's got big what? Anyways, as always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our intro and outro music. Props to Rachel for our artwork and Twitter account at Rebels Robots Pod.
Props to Cameron for our Facebook and our Instagram.
Heck yeah.
And sometimes you get to watch him repost old memes.
Sometimes. I'll pick it up again. I just am lazy. Thank you to Athena for presumably editing this episode. She's been running around. She just ran past us a second ago.
I know.
She's presumably somewhere around here.
She's literally right there, Cameron.
Let us know. I literally cannot see her from where I am. I have no. Okay, if I can turn all the way over here, now I can see her. Okay, she is confirmed. Live. Life. Proof of life has been confirmed. Let us know what you think about the name Miyazaki Dog Days of Dead Dad Summer. Let us know if you like it, love it, or really love it. This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, "Squeeze you later."
I do like that one.
Cool.
That one's funny.
Good. Okay. This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, The robots got rocket titties. This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, I think the movie would have been better if Sheeta had just died being suffocated by Dola's welcoming bosom.
I don't agree with that. That puts us in some weird connotations.
This is Rachel and Cameron signing off saying, big ol' eyes, big ol' titties.
It's Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, did you enjoy participating in Dead Summer?
This is Rachel and Cameron signing off saying,
no, absolutely not. We're not doing that one. We're not doing that one. I'm vetoing that right now. Stop that. We're not doing that one. We're not doing that one.